If everybody could take a seat for a few minutes, I'm going to run through a brief presentation. It'll be an overview of the project so far. And I know some of you have already kind of jumped in and started reviewing some of the exhibits and giving your feedback, which is great. But I'll give an overview and then we can kind of get back to that exercise. We're looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say. Want to start off thanking Springfield Township for hosting us tonight. Great space. And we didn't have a presentation at the first public meeting. I don't know who was there, but I want to thank the Wadsworth Library for hosting us for that first meeting as well. We had a great turnout there as well. That first meeting we did, we did talk about some big picture items, some existing conditions, some of the concerns that the community had. And then, we took that feedback as well as feedback from the online survey and the mapping exercise and started developing ideas or concepts for improvements for the corridor and some specific intersections. So tonight, we're going to review that feedback, as I said, and then we're going to kind of get into a little bit more detail on some of those ideas that we had. And the next steps after tonight, we're going to take your feedback again, process that. We're going to finalize the alternatives. We're going to run them by PennDOT, the county, the city, Springfield Township, and Cheltenham Township. Get their feedback and, in order to finalize those alternatives. And then we'll come back and we're going to present our final kind of recommendations and, the outcome of all this effort at two regularly scheduled, probably Board of Commissioner meetings or supervisors meetings, one in Springfield Township back here again, and then one in Cheltenham Township. So those will be advertised as well once we get those scheduled. And then, of course, we'll generate a report documenting everything through this study process and everybody's feedback. All right, so as I alluded to, for the public engagement for this project, we did have an online survey that was open for several months. I think it was it November, Brian? Did it open in November? And it closed in April. So we had a long period. We had a lot of responses, as you saw out on the board. We did have some boards that summarized that feedback. And we kind of parsed through all the comments, all the poll responses to get kind of a sense for what the community's concerns were and what your vision was. And then we also had an online mapping tool. If anybody used that, you could actually go in and identify an intersection or stretch of the roadway and tell us what your specific concern was, or if you had a specific idea for what needed to be improved. And then, as I also said, we had a meeting in April, and tonight is our second public meeting. We have two meetings, public meetings like workshops like this in the project process. And then we'll do those public presentations, as I mentioned, over the summer, probably July or August. For the online survey, we had almost 600 survey submissions on the actual survey and over 100 different inputs on the mapping exercise. So it gave us a lot of great feedback. And then, I'll touch on some of the key takeaways, but we did do a word cloud bubble. So we asked people to, describe one word, one or two words, what their initial or major thought was on the corridor. And we got a lot of negative comments, no surprise. Unsafe, fast speeding drivers, maintenance related issues, and just dangerous in a sense of it wasn't, pedestrian friendly. It wasn't driver friendly either. So there were definitely a lot of challenges and issues identified. And just in terms of survey response, the map on the right kind of shows the different zip codes where if people responded, where they lived. You know, this is the study corridor along Cheltenham Avenue, and then you can see the bulk of the responses, came around the study area along the corridor, just one zip code over. But we did get a scattering. Cheltenham Avenue is kind of a key connection, for several different areas. So it's not surprising we drew from some further out zip codes. I myself, I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia. I went to LaSalle High School, so I was, off this map. Oops, sorry, off the map. But really advanced that one. Jeez. So, I mean, I was, way out here, and I was still driving that corridor. And, after I got done college, I lived in Elkins Park and then Lafayette Hill. I drove this corridor a lot over the years, not so much recently, but, coming back for this project, I've seen there's been some changes, but a lot of it's still the same from, I won't tell you how long ago that was, but, probably 30 years ago. So, yeah, so that's, the responses. We got a lot of great feedback, a lot of good comments, and we really kind of tried to dive into those and reflect them in our improvements, our alternative ideas. So just in terms of that survey, we had a lot of questions and polls. I didn't put every poll on this presentation, but what we took away was there were a lot of comments related to driving conditions, safety, and then a lot of improvement suggestions and concerns for pedestrians, and bikes. There was a lot of support for change. Sometimes, you don't see that when we do these projects. People have concerns, but they don't necessarily, they're not really comfortable with change. But we did get a lot of feedback where, people strongly agreed, or, had a level of, agreement that, something should be done. And in terms of one question we asked, should, improvements be focused on safety for all users, meaning, if you're driving it, if you're walking along it, if you're riding your bike or crossing this, Cheltenham Avenue corridor, people were supportive of that. You could see it was pretty much off the chart, almost 400 responses, and then almost another 120 responses that people supported that. Very few didn't want to see change or had concerns about change. So, but, as I related some of the key takeaways from the survey and their specific responses in the comments, no, the speeding, safe driving conditions, there were a lot of complaints about that. Pedestrian safety, related to crossings, sidewalk gaps where in some areas there's no sidewalk, or it's, right up against the road. There were, a lot of concerns that, Cheltenham Avenue is too wide. It's hard for a pedestrian to get across. Some traffic related takeaways were, the lack of left turns along a lot of the corridor. So that creates safety concerns as well as congestion. And then we did get a lot of comments about, school traffic, particularly the LaSalle driveway and those peaks, and, how that impacts traffic conditions and, perceived safety along the corridor, during school peak times. That is, with every school, that is a concern. It's a surge of traffic all at once. And especially with school, you don't have everybody coming in like an office in the morning and leaving in the afternoon. Parents and school buses, they're in, dropping off and leaving right away. So it kind of doubles the effect. So we have some ideas on, what to do with the school driveway there. And then we did get a lot of comments on the future Gresham Trail connection that's coming up out of Philadelphia near Mermaid Lane. And then that's going to cross, I think the alignment, I think it's still being worked out on the north side, but it's where the Pico easement is, just to the west of Holy Sepulchre Cemetery. So we have some ideas about that intersection as well. And, there was some concerns about a road diet, which I'll kind of explain what that is if you're not familiar with it or you haven't seen some of our boards and talked to Brian or some of the other guys about what that is. But there was some concerns about it, but, I think there was agreement that safety was a goal of the project, and, people were still mostly open to the idea. So some of the considerations we have based on those, we really wanted to focus on reducing speeding and deterring aggressive driving, reducing those turning conflicts, making sure, with our improvements, we're not making traffic flow any worse, and where we could improve poor conditions, we did that. Finding ways to make pedestrian connections where there's gaps missing today, as well as improving bus stop shelters and access to those bus stops. There's several areas where there's no sidewalk to get to the bus stop, or it's a tough intersection to cross to get to the other side. So we want to try to address that as best we can, and then improving bicycle crossings. What we did here at the public meeting and through the survey. But bicycle safety is important, but it was more so, getting places, making connections and crossing Cheltenham Avenue rather than people weren't really too comfortable with, putting bike lanes along Cheltenham Avenue. And based on PennDOT's guidelines, you can see why, with the level of traffic along Cheltenham Avenue, if you were to consider a bike lane, it would really be recommended to provide some kind of separation. So it would be, up behind a curb or some kind of barrier. So that it wouldn't be just striping a bike lane on the edge of the road per se. So that's something that we're going to take a look at as well. So with that, I'm going to highlight some of the potential alternatives, which are kind of in the back of the room as well as on the right side. So we have both corridor alternative ideas as well as intersection alternative ideas. Again, these are initial ideas. We want your feedback. We're going to, after we hear that, we're going to, refine them. And then we're going to run them by different agencies. Like I said, PennDOT, SEPTA, the different municipalities along the corridor, and, kind of get their blessing. So some of these might be subject to change based on that review and your input. But this is kind of where we are tonight. So for the corridors, there are three primary alternatives that we came up with. One is basically using the existing cross section, not doing much in terms of changing lanes too much, but making improvements where we can to improve pedestrian crossings, where we could do some signal timing adjustments, optimization, get the corridor flowing better, where we could maybe restriping for a left turn or a right turn here and there within the existing cartway, but nothing major, no major widening. Actually, none of the corridor improvements have widening. We're really trying to work within the existing curb. So we're not trying to grow the existing cross section of the roadway. We're really trying to kind of work with what we have. And then our second alternative is going to be a 3-lane cross section, which is basically your road diet. It's going to be one travel lane in each direction. There's going to be a left turn lane in the middle. It can be a center left turn lane kind of in the middle of intersections, and at intersections, it would turn into a dedicated left turn lane at those intersections. That will give us some, in most sections of the road, it'll give us some extra space to work with. So we have to figure out, do we want to accommodate, a dedicated bus pull-off area? Because now we're going to go from 2 lanes where, the bus can stop against the curb and traffic can go around them. There's only going to be one travel lane. So, Do we give that bus stop its own bus stop area? Do we provide a right turn lane at the intersection? Do we try to do a separated bike lane? So, or do we just kind of narrow the roadway a little bit, for traffic calming, with, a mid-block crosswalk? So those are some of the things that, hopefully, we want to talk to you about, what to do with that extra space. That's the board over on the left or to your right. And then the last cross-section corridor improvement idea we have is to do basically hybrid section. So it's going to be a combination of having like the 3-lane cross-section in some areas, and then we'll have pretty much the existing cross-section in the center, basically between Ivy Hill Road and Vernon Road, through the Eastern Road section and the shopping center there. That would pretty much stay the 5-lane cross section that it is. But we would have on both sides of that section, we would have the road diet. And then as you got down here towards Well Road, it would transition back to the existing cross section. That way you have, your turn lanes at the intersection for capacity. And then we have intersection alternatives as well. Based on the feedback we have, there were 5 key intersections that were noted. We have alternatives for 5 of them. We have LaSalle High School driveway. We have the Mermaid Waverly Road intersections. We combine those. Easton Road as well as Lime Kiln Pike intersection. The other 5th intersection was Paper Mill Road. We haven't developed a alternative to that because there is not a lot of right of way to work with. We have residential properties right up against the intersection. So for now, what we saw, there is certainly a surge of traffic during the peak hours. But what we would try to do is basically optimize the traffic signals, maybe make some minor adjustments, maybe make some small geometric changes so traffic could flow through the intersection a little bit more cleanly, and also we want to make sure we provide as much capacity we can without impacting or having to take away somebody's front yard. So just a little bit on road diets. So for when to consider a road diet, basically Federal Highway gives some kind of rule of thumb guidance. And they say basically when your peak hour traffic volume, so your rush hour, in the morning or afternoon, if you have 750 vehicles per hour in any direction, in one direction, that corridor could be a candidate for a road diet. So looking at our traffic data, we did do counts last spring, and basically every section of the corridor from Ogons Avenue to Paper Mill Road does satisfy that. It is under 750 vehicles per hour in one direction. Some are a little bit higher, some areas are a little bit higher, but we don't exceed that 750. So, it makes sense to examine the road diet. So, that's, I think, where the county was coming from when they said, let's look at this corridor and, see what we can do to improve it. We have a lot of complaints about safety and whatnot. So, the road diet is an improvement that addresses that safety. So, and then as you, increase in your traffic volumes, they tell you to kind of cautiously look at it, or it's probably not likely. So luckily, we don't fit into any of those categories. I think I skipped a slide. Yeah, I did skip a slide. So why consider a 3-lane cross-section or road diet? And again, this is from Federal Highway. Road diets have been proven, they've been studied to improve safety, reduce collisions, and different crash types. They reduce speeding and aggressive driving. And, you are taking capacity away from, the main street and side streets. But by providing left turn lanes, those left turn lanes a lot of times are sources of congestion. They back up traffic as well as, they are safety issues for visibility and, rear end traffic as well. Coming up to, somebody's coming up to driveway, they stop, the car behind it might not be expecting that. So, that happens a lot on 4-lane roadways when you don't have your dedicated turn lane. And then in a lot of cases, it provides a better overall pedestrian environment. The streets get narrower, so the crossing for a pedestrian to get from one side to the other can often be reduced. So instead of having to cross 4 lanes of traffic, you have 12 feet or less a lane width to get across the street. So provides a better pedestrian environment, as well as that, depending on the road and the volumes, it can also provide a better environment for, bicyclists as well as transit users. And we a lot of times you can have, a lot of extra space for, bus stops and other amenities and streetscape and, beautification measures. So I'm going to get a little wonky or geeky here and go through a little bit of results. We did do some traffic analysis, and basically what we found for the 3 corridor sections, the existing conditions with just some timing changes, and not a whole lot of change, as well as the 3-lane road diet cross section and the hybrid cross section. Basically, we model the corridor. We put in the traffic volumes, we put in traffic signal timings, we put in traffic counts. We did grow these traffic volumes to the year 2045 to run this analysis. And basically, it gives us different outputs. 2 of those outputs are travel time. So what it takes if somebody was driving along Cheltenham Avenue and they pass through the study area from Ogons Avenue to Paper Mill Road. So that's one direction, that's the westbound direction, then it gives it in the eastbound direction as well. So basically what we found was, if we left, the corridor pretty much the way it was, just made some minor changes, it would take a driver about 9 minutes, a little over 9 minutes to get from one end to the other.
About the traffic that if it's done in the spring, what month? What time?
It was the spring, and typically what we do for our accounts are 9 a.m. or sorry, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then in the evening, we typically do 4 to 6 p.m. And it's been a little while since I looked at the counts. I think it was April. Do you remember, Vivian? No, not off the top of your head. I can find out.
Was the study done during spring break for the schools?
No, we made sure we looked at LaSalle, we looked at Springfield, we looked at the public school schedule, we looked at Cheltenham's and Springfield's schedule, and they're all in session when we did our counts. We made sure that we did that. So basically, and these, as we refine the analysis, as we make tweaks to the intersection improvements, these numbers are going to change a little bit. But what it gives us perspective is, if we're going to a road diet, we're adding, if we're going westbound, we're only adding 2 minutes to the corridor travel time. So over I think it's like about just over 3 miles. That a driver's not going to, notice that too much. And, you have to weigh that with this, the benefits of the safety as well. So we're achieving our goals of, a safer roadway, a nicer roadway, a more comfortable roadway for all users. And, the intersections are still functioning. traffic along the corridor, especially along Cheltenham Avenue, is going to operate well. And so we're not going to see a big jump in the travel time. And that goes for the hybrid section as well. And then in the eastbound direction, and this is for the morning commute, I'm sorry. So in the eastbound direction, it's all around 6 minutes. And what we can see when we see the volumes is in the morning, the westbound travel from this section of roadway from Ogons to Paper Mill, it's a little heavier going westbound than it is eastbound. And then in the afternoon, that shifts and flips. So it's a little bit busier going eastbound. And then the average speed along the corridor in the morning. So this isn't, driving the corridor and, I can only go 20 miles an hour in my car. This measures your speed based on the amount of time you're driving at, your regular speed, as well as your braking time, your time stopped at an intersection. So it's going to be below the posted speed limit. It always is. But what you can see is there's a slight decrease in the speed, but it's not anything drastic, which is good. And, we get a small speed reduction. And, again, weigh that with the benefits of the pedestrian safety, the safety for drivers, speeds going, with increased speeds, there's more potential for collisions and crashes, as well as their severity increases as well. So that's so morning, not a big change overall with the corridor alternatives in terms of travel time or average speed. And then we see the same thing in the PM. There's not a lot of change. It's about 10 minutes, give or take, along the corridor, 9 to 10 minutes westbound, about 6, 7-ish eastbound. And then again, the speeds are pretty similar, kind of going westbound and eastbound as well. So not a big change. So I'll try to get a little less wonky now.
So did that suggest that I guess unless traffic increased, we would just stay the existing cross section, and that's how long it would normally take in the evening and the morning?
Yeah, well, traffic's going to increase a little bit because this is for 2045. So we did forecast our numbers ahead. So. All right, so we have, going to get into some of the intersection ideas that we have. So for LaSalle College High School, I don't know how well you can see it with the lights, but these are all on the boards in the back corner there. But basically, at the two driveways, they enter and exit, they're separate today. They're unsignalized. What we're proposing to do is consolidate those driveways, provide a more standard driveway, signalize the intersection, subject to PennDOT, approving that. PennDOT has to approve all new traffic signals. And then what we would have through here, this would be the road diet, the 3-lane cross section under the road diet scenario, as well as the hybrid. So we would have a dedicated left turn lane at the driveway. And then we'd also have a separate right turn lane into the school as well. And so if you're having trouble seeing it, you'll be able to see it on the board a little bit better. And then that'll give us the opportunity to prove some sight lines along the frontage. It is difficult today if you're pulling out of the driveway to kind of look left and right and see oncoming traffic, especially when they're speeding. And then we're looking at options on extending the sidewalk at least down to the school property, potentially down to Paper Mill Road, but we did hear some feedback. That might get tough with property impacts to some of the residential properties down at this end. So we're going to work with the high school to look at those a little bit more. All right, so This is Easton Road and Wadsworth Avenue. This was our, I believe this was our highest crash location. And we did have a couple pedestrian collisions as well. So we have a kind of a schematic pictured for whether it stays a 5-lane cross section or, what we might be able to do with it if it was a 3-lane cross section. This is the 3-lane cross section. We would continue to have a separate turn lane. It does widen, and there are some shoulders through this intersection, so we have some extra space here. And what we were eyeing was to make this is a very wide intersection, so to provide what it's called a pedestrian refuge island or a median refuge island. And what happens there is, since it's so wide, if somebody can't move as fast, if, they're handicapped or elderly, or, they're with children, if they can't get across the whole intersection, they can at least stop it in a wider island. And they can pause there comfortably till the next green light. So we were looking at that as a potential idea, as well as potentially providing some, at least in the eastbound direction, providing a bus stop area dedicated for just the bus stops. And then today there are actually pedestrian crosswalks along across each of the approaches. And we have to explore this a little bit, talk to SEPTA as well as PennDOT about this, but there is a handicap ramp here, but no sidewalks, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, you can't get into the cemetery. This is Holy Sepulchre. You can't really get into the cemetery here. There are bus stops along this side of Cheltenham Avenue, but there's no sidewalk to them, and they're further up. They're not at the intersection. So we want to talk to PennDOT and SEPTA about that, see if, we can either provide better access to that, and if not, do we want to just take away those pedestrian crosswalks? Typically, we don't want to take away crosswalks, but if there's no real reason to do that, these are also heavy turning movements. So, remove that conflict as a safety improvement. And then we're also showing, right now, if you're coming down Easton Road from 309, there is a channelized right turn lane, as well as if you're going westbound past the shopping center and you want to turn right and go up Easton Road towards 309, there's another channelized right. Our idea was to get rid of those channelizations because they still have, you could still make the right turn. And even on Cheltenham Avenue, we'd provide a dedicated right turn lane, but those are high speed movements. They're really, driver friendly. They're not pedestrian friendly. So what we would like to do is maybe get rid of those and just make it a more standard right turn. So, that's basically, oh, I'm sorry. And coming up Wadsworth, this is a confusing approach because it's actually 2 through lanes, and you can turn left from the outer through lane. So what we were looking to do is just make that, or the inner left turn lane, or the inner lane a left turn lane, and a separate through lane, 1 through lane. So okay, oh yeah, that's right. They restrict that. So we were saying that potentially we could put it back. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. So yes, we did model it that way. So thank you. Thank you.
So if you do put that left turn lane, would there be a signal just for that, like a dedicated left turn?
Yeah, most likely there would be a green arrow. So again, all this needs to be worked out with PennDOT and the city and that sort of thing. So and we're almost to the presentation. So this is the other idea. If the intersection stayed as is in terms of the 5-lane cross section, we would try to, again, use some of that shoulder area to still provide that median refuge area. and then get rid of the channelization, make it a little bit more pedestrian friendly. And then the one thing we did notice coming down 309, that does, back up, especially the left turn onto Cheltenham Avenue. The other day when I was through here, it was backing up past the signal for the shopping center. That probably happens pretty frequently. So what we were suggesting is, based on the turning volumes and the analysis, that we could potentially look at making it a double left turning onto Cheltenham Avenue, if you had the two receiving lanes. And then you would have the one through lane, because what happens today is while there's two through lanes, you get across the intersection and it immediately tapers into, one travel lane as you get into the city. And that's, a source of, congestion and friction, and, you could have some aggressive drivers not letting people in, that sort of thing. So, if we could have that transition where there's a little bit more area north of the intersection, that could be a, potential remedy for the intersection. And then we have the intersection at Lime Kiln Pike. This one, if anybody's driven down here, if you're heading eastbound towards 309, there's two travel lanes today. The inner lane is pretty much a de facto left turn lane. Everybody's turning left to turn up Lime Kiln to get to 309. So basically, that's been happening since I was high school. You always knew to get against the curb to get past it. We're saying, make that a left turn lane in that direction. Provide another left turn lane. Basically, provide a left turn lane on all approaches. There's some shoulder areas along Lime Kiln to work with. We don't think we have to do any widening. We think we have the space to fit those in, but if we have to do any widening, it'll be just very minor. And we'll take a look at that after tonight. But that will allow traffic to flow through the intersection better. And you won't get as many backups, because traffic can't get around, and the other approaches, if a car is waiting to turn left, sometimes it can be hard to get around them. And then enhanced pedestrian crosswalks. We can still provide a bus pull-off area. I know that, the bus terminal is right down here. And then a little bit more, since we do have, this is a hot area, we have the bus, people walking to the bus terminal. Just provide that some green buffer along the sidewalks. Just a little bit more comfortable experience for the pedestrians, so they're not right up against traffic. And then the last concept we really have is, this kind of touches on the corridor, but it's kind of related to intersections as well. So this is Vernon Road, and this is Lime Kiln. So through this section, this again would be a road diet. But what we were looking at, there are a lot of driveways. These are all, I think, over the years, these all used to be different businesses. The church has, here has, purchased all those. They're all one property. So we're looking to maybe access management. So maybe not have as many individual driveways, connect the parking lots. So, there can be some controlled access to the property, as well as, some efficiencies with their parking, connect those parking lots, and, have some areas for maybe like a nice landscaped median to do that, or just a basic median, as well as you will have your left turn lanes at the intersections on both approaches, or at both ends. I'm sorry. Right now, this is Greenwood Street. Left turns are technically restricted, but people make them anyway. We did count that in our traffic counts. So, we could potentially provide, left turn lane for people to turn into it, but maybe extend that island just enough so it physically restricts those lefts. And then, there could be a little bit of a center left turn lane area in this section where, you could access the church park, some of the parking lots and driveways, as well as this is Philomena Street. That's an idea we had. We want to talk that through, definitely talk to the church a little bit more about that. And then I'm just going to throw this in. This is just kind of an overall shot of it. And full disclosure, we just pumped this into AI and asked us for a rendering. So we didn't spend a lot of time on it. So it's not perfect, but it paints a picture, a different view of, what this section could look like. So you can see, a nice grass, vegetated median, some nice sidewalks, street trees, you have your turn lanes. This could be an opportunity, to connect some of these parking lots. The church does have some land behind it. There might be opportunity to do some kind of alley connection behind those properties. So we're going to talk to them about that as well. Again, just a pretty picture, just quick and dirty, nothing engineered, nothing, this probably took 15 minutes to create. And I typically don't use AI, but, this was a good application for it to kind of give you guys just a visual representation of what it could look like. So that's the presentation. So, I'm happy to answer questions, or if we want to just break out shortly and kind of go back to the boards and kind of talk from the boards, we can do that. Question?
Since so much is on the table in terms of options,
Yes.
why are you not considering widening, especially with sections in Springfield Township, that might give even more options instead of trying to get everything timed in?
So just in case,
Go a little widen it a little bit.
okay. So
All the things you said,
sure.
widen.
So just in case nobody heard or couldn't hear the question, it was, we're looking at several options and, why not consider widening? So I would say first off, the kind of the impetus or kind of when the county was looking at the project, it was more to look at a road diet specifically, and then other alternatives. And, what we found was, while there are some varying widths, different segments of the corridor, generally, the corridor function, with the exception of a few spots here and there, from a performance and operations standpoint, moving traffic, it works. So, we didn't want to go too far because, with the road diet, those improvements can be done, I don't want to say cheaply, but relatively inexpensively, because a lot of it's restriping, making some adjustments to, some curbs, making some pedestrian improvements. That's going to add up. But, taking curb and moving it way out, where, that's going to increase the price tag drastically, as well as, based on our, initial review of the traffic analysis, we didn't really see that as being, significantly necessary.
John, my name is Mike Searman. I'm on the board of Stotesbury Community Association. We have about 183 homeowners, and we're almost across from LaSalle High School.
Yes. Yep.
3 areas of concern that we've discussed. Number 1, when PennDOT did their improvement of the Paper Mill and Cheltenham intersection, they put a left-hand turn signal from Paper Mill into Cheltenham, but they never put a right-hand turn signal from Cheltenham onto Paper Mill, which doesn't necessarily seem like a big deal, but with LaSalle traffic, you have a number of bus companies that come and drop off the students, and the bus companies themselves have an internal policy that will not allow their drivers to make a right turn on red.
Right.
So even though they could while the arrow's going, they will not, which causes a backup pretty much from the bottom of that intersection all the way up to LaSalle High School, which creates more of a problem during school hours with that. So I think that would be an easy fix, number 1. Number 2, from Fenton Ave along Cheltenham going westbound to Paper Mill, there are no sidewalks.
Right.
Except for the small portion in front of the Stotesbury community. And that seems to be a very dangerous area where you have students, especially ones that, might have missed a bus or
Mhm.
coming back from practice or, walking on the side of the road because there is no sidewalk there. So we would suggest putting in sidewalks in that area. And the other thing with the road diet would like you to keep in mind, going eastbound from Paper Mill past Cheltenham, as you go down into the valley towards Patton, our residents are concerned about being able to make right-hand turns if there's a road diet there and there's one lane that's totally congested trying to turn in there. Right now, it's hard enough trying to turn into 2 lanes when you're turning from Trumbauer Road, making a right-hand turn onto Cheltenham going eastbound.
So, okay. I know what you're saying. Yeah, so we are looking at that right turn arrow down here at Paper Mill. And in terms of the sidewalks, we are looking at that. We did, at the last meeting, we did hear some concerns. I think a resident that lived along Cheltenham said, maybe we don't want to put sidewalks, past the high school. And, so, we're going to look at it and say, this is a plan. We're not doing an engineered plan. This is a study plan, kind of a roadmap for the future so that the municipalities can take projects and advance them.
But we've also seen in the past in this township where it was just a study plan on Bethlehem, on Bethlehem Pike, that we're just doing a study plan. It's not really going to be implemented. And it was just, our one meeting and then it was implemented. So that's something else that we're concerned about.
What I'm saying is, we hope, whatever the recommendation is, that the townships and the county and PennDOT, they can, move these projects along individually. Like, I'm not saying, what I was trying to say is we're not going to come up with this one design and it's all going to happen, at once. So it might be stepped along. So there's going to be opportunity to say, all right, we'll show, potential for a sidewalk or where it should be. But it might evolve over time. So,
Okay.
and we're looking at different opportunities to do
Thank
that.
you.
Yep. Sorry.
Just
Maybe if we can just form a line if there's a bunch of questions. And we can also answer, we'll be at the boards as well.
Sure, Leon Rosen, I'm a resident of Stotesbury Townhomes. So my question is, have you taken into account any other options for entrances to the LaSalle College High School? For example, off of Hawthorne or Cobden. I know that they're not ideal, but especially for Hawthorne and the access to 309 and Paper Mill, that could alleviate a lot of the congestion in that area.
Right. We have not looked at anything off the corridor. So we were just focused on the driveway itself. Not to say that, if LaSalle and, wanted to pursue that, they couldn't do that as well. That could always be done. Again, it would have to go through, and they'd have to get township approval for that. So.
Hi, my name's Larry. I'm from Mount Airy, Philadelphia. I just had 2 quick questions, very, very simple. One is this a Montgomery County focused project or is this a Montgomery, Philadelphia County project where the 2 are working together?
Yeah. So this study is being funded through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. So there are, regional metropolitan planning organization. So they gave a grant to Montgomery County to do this study, and Springfield Township and Cheltenham Township were, partners in that effort. And then, once we got started with the project, we also kind of involved, City of Philadelphia folks as well. And they've been part of our steering committee.
Awesome. And the second question is, I was looking at the maps and I'm very visual. So I had to double check. Was Cheltenham and Ogons at all considered for this project? Because I didn't see it on the map, or I might have missed it.
Basically, it's kind of our end point. So we were kind of looking everything west of Ogons Avenue.
Okay. Only because Ogon's owned by Yeah, that's the,
That's a tough intersection. Yeah.
that's, yeah.
I was glad it stopped there. No, I'm just kidding. So,
Thank you very much.
sure.
Well, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Have my mask on only because I'm asthmatic. I'm not contagious. Good evening. My name is Darlene Melton. I live, why don't you just tell me the outside voice? Okay, thank you, hon. I actually live in Cheltenham Township. I went to the first meeting that you had in Philadelphia. So I realized that at some point in life, hopefully you'll get down to that other bad intersection where, but this is my question. We have Montgomery County that got the grant to do the study, but we have 3 townships that's involved. What I have found out sometimes when there is a problem with the road and the street, if it's just if the street light goes out,
Mhm.
that is not Montgomery County has any kind of control over it. So I guess my question is, who's going to have after, if this gets implemented, because again,
Mhm.
it's a study, it
Right.
may or may not. Who's going to have the control if something does go wrong where your left-hand turn lights are not going correctly? And number 2, what streets or what part of Cheltenham Avenue is actually a county road or a state road? Because then the counties might not have any control over those.
Right.
And my last thing, to piggyback off of the gentleman back here about why don't we just widen the road? In the area that I live in, to my understanding, somewhere in the 1960s, that happened. No, I'm just saying.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay. And right, Cheltenham at one point might have been
Mhm.
just 2 lanes. Now down where there's also a lot of accidents, it's 4 lanes, 2 up, 2 back. But what happened when they widened the street on the Cheltenham side, those people lost their frontage.
Mhm.
Yes, they cannot park in the front of their house at all. What happened is that they received a so-called pretty wall. They lost their parking, they lost some land, they just have a wall.
Right.
So again, to my understanding, that happened in the 60s. I wasn't living there in the 60s. I moved in the 80s. And now what happens, you have an overflow of those people who own homes that, and it's bad in the winter because where they're going to park.
Right.
So they come into the street behind, or they go into a lot over there. And then you get a new owner for the lot. Their cars get towed away. So I don't know if widening a street is really going to help. And then again, you have like where Bethel is, they own that whole block. They
Right.
may, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a member of Bethel,
Right.
but you have houses on the other side where already when you get, I wouldn't want to own a house on that block because we're going to park. So I guess my main question is, who's going to have control over this?
So, well, first, thank you for kind of
Okay.
making the point about the widening. It is very impactful. And, what our goal was when we were looking at all these alternatives was to be the least impactful.
Mhm.
And, but to make sure, everything functioned reasonably. And, that's, what we've found so far. And that's what is highlighted in our, conceptual ideas right now. In terms of ownership of the traffic signals, well, Cheltenham Avenue is a state road. So PennDOT owns the road. But PennDOT doesn't own any traffic signals in the state. They're all owned by the municipality. So,
Right. So where I live at, I don't know about anybody else, 19th and Cheltenham then had fatal car accidents. The control panel is on the Philadelphia side. So When it goes out, you have people trying to do the left, people
Yeah.
trying to do the right, people going over, and now they're using it as a raceway anyway. Cheltenham now
Yeah.
just really is a raceway.
Right.
So you call your township and say, hey, street light's out.
Yeah.
Or the street light is so broken that it's not changing at all for anybody to make a turn.
Right.
And they say, well, that's Philadelphia. So if you're going to do something, somebody has to have control other than, in my opinion,
Right.
saying, oh, that's for them.
Right. Yeah. And I think,
Like, it's just throwing
yeah,
the ball.
the traffic signal issue, typically there is usually one municipality that owns it. And I can't speak for the whole
Right.
corridor of Cheltenham Avenue. But I think where there is a border with Philadelphia, I think the city owns those traffic signals. So that would
Okay.
be who you would have to report it to, the streets department.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I'll make another suggestion. and another-
Sorry.
I will simply say Billy Briggle pretty good at those requests, but I.
Okay, I'm gonna
understand
tell
the
you a true
frustration.
story. Do not get into a car accident on Cheltenham Avenue unless you land when it's up.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Morton. I'm in Cheltenham Township, and I have three areas of concern. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, so, but I
That's why I'm
don't
here.
mean any harm.
Sure.
You talk about doing a traffic study, and my question is this a study to find out something you don't know or to verify something you do know? And the reason I'm asking is, for those who live on or near Cheltenham Avenue, like the gentleman raised about Stotesbury, those are things that are known, have been known, they're not new. So is your study to find those things out or to verify those things because their concerns that they're raising are things that are, if they're not in the study, they
Right.
need to be in the study to be studied.
I would say both. The federal highway guidelines that I set, the county knew, there's issues along this section of, Cheltenham Avenue. So, the guidelines say, oh, well, you could probably consider a road diet. So they wanted to take a look at that. They didn't know, would it work for this section of roadway? We know we have some issues. We know we have crashes at the different intersections. So, we want to, find out, will it work? We also know, there are other, you can look at the crash data and kind of know what some of the issues are. The townships get complaints. They know what some of the issues are. We know LaSalle traffic in the morning, when everybody's going to school is an issue. So, partially, and through the, public outreach and, listening to everybody, we wanted to learn, what some of those other issues are and also where we could verify those issues.
Mhm.
And make sure
Hopefully-
we try to address as many issues as we
Right.
can.
Hopefully that helps
Yeah.
because, I listened to the gentleman from Stotesbury. I'm like, yeah, I've been here 20 plus years and I see that every day. If
Yeah.
we're doing a study, we should be way past that. We should have a resolution.
Right.
Second point was, I was a little bit late. I apologize for that, but I think I got the gist of the PowerPoint. And you went from LaSalle, you skipped up to Wadsworth. Was there any study, any look at Cheltenham and Willow Grove and Cheltenham and Waverly? Because I would be willing to bet
Oh, you know
if
what?
Cheltenham and Wadsworth is your highest crash area, Cheltenham and Waverly and Willow Grove are probably 2 and 3.
You know what? Thank you. I think I accidentally skipped ahead on the
Ah.
Waverly intersection.
Yeah.
Not on purpose.
No. I
Um,
don't think
so
you're here to do that.
I'll go back and touch on that intersection. And there is a concept on the side.
And Cheltenham and Willow Grove,
We did not look at that specifically.
probably pretty high traffic.
It's high traffic.
Accidents.
Yeah, and I forget the exact crash date. It wasn't one of the higher ones. But we did look at that. We are proposing some retiming and, based on what treatment we do for the corridor would, affect how we transition and, how the lanes would go through that intersection. But we didn't, specifically look at that intersection because again, the homes are all right on the property, so there's no really room to widen. So there would be some minor enhancements that we'd be
Yeah.
looking to do. And
I'd be
signal timing.
shocked to know that that's not a high accident area. Real shocked. Lee,
Yeah.
would you be shocked? Considering we live there. And the third thing is, I noticed when this improvement project came out, I see some areas of Cheltenham Avenue that have been paved over. Like you'll have 50 feet of new pavement, then it will stop. Any reason for that? Any?
It might just be maintenance, and a certain section was really bad, and they decided to dig it up and, fix that section. I'm not sure.
It's not only on the Cheltenham side, it's on the Springfield side, it's on the Cheltenham side too.
It could probably be both. I'm not sure.
I'm that kind of concerned.
Okay,
We've got a
let's- yeah.
traffic study and we're talking about improving roads, improving space, improving flow of traffic, and we're doing parts of it. And you're saying you don't know anything about that. That's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's more of a maintenance issue. So
Yeah.
we weren't really looking at the maintenance. We were looking at, performance and operations. So this is Waverly Road and Mermaid Lane.
Thanks.
So I apologize for skipping over. Thank you for pointing that out. So this, oh, I did I? No, I don't think I did Waverly. Did I? Okay, I thought I skipped it. All right, so, but basically, I probably just did it real quick. So realignment of Waverly, there is the Pico easement through here with the overhead power lines. And the Gresham Trail is, looking at making that a bike connection as well. So what we were proposing to, or looking to do, is potentially realign Waverly opposite Mermaid. And then there is some kind of power substation here on the corner, which we'd have to avoid. But with that, we have to push the intersection alignment back, which would have some impact on this quarry property on the corner. So, that has to be explored a little bit further as well. But there would be a realignment with a traffic signal. There would be turn lanes. We would try to fit separate left turn lanes on the side streets with another lane for through and right turn movements. So we didn't do the alignment down here because you could see the impact of that. That would mostly, impact the residential properties here. If we were to try to do something over here, as well as it looks like there are already easements in place for this business to use part of the Pico easement for, business storage. So that's something we can explore as well. And, if this doesn't work, we're looking at maybe keeping the existing alignment and doing either two traffic signals that work together, that are closely spaced. Not ideal, but they're mostly right turn volumes at these intersections. So I think it could work, as well as, we have to make sure the queuing works between the intersections for the left turns, which initially it looks like they would. Or we just signalize Mermaid Lane, and this remains unsignalized, and potentially, maybe since there aren't a lot of left turn lanes there, we'd look to maybe restrict left turn lanes, or if there is with the center left turn lane, traffic can use that turn lane to make it like a two-step turn. They can turn into the center turn lane when it's clear. When this westbound traffic's clear, they can wait in the turn lane area, and then once eastbound traffic is clear, there's a gap, they can turn. So again, sorry for skipping that. And again, it's on a board in the back. All right, thank you.
Hi. I'm Donna Powell. I
Hi, Donna.
live in Cheltenham Township. And thank you for doing this because we need some improvement along this corridor. But I want to note some observations and then I have a request.
Sure.
The Wadsworth pedestrian crossing, which is where people are trying to cross the mall
Mhm.
to get over to the Philly side. that pedestrian crossing, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Cars don't know where to stop and the people don't know where to cross. I think that's one of the problems with that one.
Yep.
The channel lanes, you're talking about channel lanes. Channel lanes are dangerous in my opinion because people don't know who has the right of way.
Right.
So the people coming out of the channel lane, they assume that they have the right of way, and the people turning assume that they have the right of way.
Right.
I don't know how you fix that unless you put yield on the channel lanes,
Mhm.
I like channel lanes because it gives you clearly making that right turn. But most people don't know there that you're supposed to
Right.
yield.
And honestly, channelization island or channel turn is different. Sometimes you do have to yield as the right turn. Sometimes you have your own lane to go into and then, merge up ahead. So,
But not
we
on
could look at,
Cheltenham.
yeah,
Not
so
on Cheltenham.
make some
For
specific
the
recommendations there.
longest, I thought I had the right of way coming out of the channel lane down near Bruno's Pizza. I know y'all know where I'm talking about, down Cheltenham Avenue. I thought I had that right of way, and when somebody would beep at me, I'm like, what is wrong with you? They were turning onto Cheltenham. I'm coming out of the channel lane, and I'm assuming I got the right of way. I'm in the lane.
So
But
everybody
no.
look out if Donna's driving and you're on the road.
I've gotten better.
So,
And the potholes, I don't know if I heard that mentioned, because no matter what you do to the corridor, if those streets still get torn up after the winter, there were holes so big on Cheltenham Avenue after this last winter that you saw cars
weaving and
everywhere
bobbing. Yeah.
trying to avoid the holes. And tree trimming, Willow Grove, Sandy, where we cross, Willow Grove and Cheltenham. You walk that every morning. You can't see the pedestrian walk because the trees have grown
Yeah.
over it. So that's important for pedestrians when you're
Okay.
working on this corridor.
We'll definitely
Um,
note that. Brian, you're taking notes, right? Thank you.
The other thing is the pedestrian signals don't always work. We can cross on the west side, but we can't cross on the east side if we want to cross from Cheltenham or Willow Grove going south, that signal doesn't work. It won't allow us to cross.
It's there, but it doesn't
It
work?
doesn't work. We
Okay.
have to cross on this side to go down, and then it works on this side to come back. So
Okay.
that's something else. Make sure the pedestrian signals are working. The turn, if you're coming down Cheltenham and you want to turn on Willow Grove, you might get the turn signal, or you might have to sit there and
Mhm.
wait.
Right.
If you're going the other way, coming and you want to make a left on Willow Grove, same difference. I see cars all the time and they get frustrated. They turn on the red arrow. Now I noticed in a lot of the areas going toward Willow Grove Mall, they have flashing yellows so you could
Mhm.
turn on the,
Yeah, that's a new type of traffic signal that PennDOT's implementing. So they're phasing those in. But there are certain conditions where due to safety, if there's an issue with sight distance, you can't see cars coming at you very well, or there might be alignment issues with cars opposing you that block traffic coming on the outside of them. PennDOT will make that what they call a protected only turn phase. So you can only turn when it's green, and they turn it red on purpose for safety reasons.
understood.
PennDOT. PennDOT approves them. The township has to own them and maintain them.
Does anybody ask them to do it, or do they? do it?
Approve, not improve. Approve.
Ask PennDOT to approve.
It could be PennDOT, it could be a township, it could be, a developer who's building a shopping center or an office park. But if you do have maintenance issues, I would recommend going on PennDOT's website, and they have basically a complaint button where you can kind of put in your complaint. It does go to the maintenance offices. If it's their responsibility, they'll do it. And I believe, if it's a township responsibility, they pass it along and notify the township. So that's a good resource. If you see something that's not working properly, you can always log on to the PennDOT website and make that request.
And the last thing I want to comment on is I am very opposed to taking 2-lane streets like Cheltenham and making them into 1 lanes, putting bus lanes. Bethlehem Pike is a nightmare, especially if you drive it during rush hour. They made that into a 1-lane street, 35 miles an hour. It works 9, 10, any other time except rush hour. It's okay. Rush hour, it's a line of traffic on there that's just unbelievable. Same with Ogons Avenue. They did the same thing to Ogons Avenue. They made Ogons 1 lane. The difference with Ogons Avenue is it made the drivers more aggressive. They get in the curb lane to pass you. They get in the turn lane to pass you. I guarantee you
good.
that will
Not good.
happen it probably won't happen on Cheltenham Avenue until you get to Wadsworth.
Mhm.
Then you're going to have a problem.
Okay,
So.
thank you. All right, we'll take the next 2, and then if there's any other questions, we can address them around the boards.
Okay. John, I'll keep it brief.
Sure.
I'm Joe Zadzikowski. I live at 8811 Cheltenham Avenue. I've been there 40 years. I just want to,
Well, almost done. No,
there we go. I just wanted to just give you some information. When Matt McCluskey built those homes on Cheltenham, I'm talking from Paper Mill to LaSalle High School, so 9 or 10 of us on that side, on the west side. He made a deal with Stotesbury, and they thought that there'd be a second road next to this station and Cheltenham Avenue with another row of homes. That zoning failed. So what happened, he kept the same placement of the homes. So even though all those, half a dozen, no, maybe a dozen homes have substantial yards to them, they're still very close to the road.
right.
So, personally, I've just been there 40 some years. If we introduce a sidewalk at that point, you've got mature trees, drainage, lighting, sidewalks. And a lot of those homes, the people that live there, they don't turn over that often.
Yeah.
It represents a substantial part of your retirement, of your savings. I just think there's gonna be a hell of a cost impact for those people if that sidewalk, intrudes and takes up that additional space. So values go down. And that's my comment. I'm a big no. I don't think I see the LaSalle traffic. I know it increases dramatically in the morning and the afternoon. And yeah, every once in a while there are absolutely kids from Stotesbury Estates that miss a bus or get in. That's a real challenge. But it slows down after that time. And it's been doing that for the last 42 years I've been there. I mean, it's cyclical. And we all like that. I'm speaking for myself. We moved there because of the bucolic beauty. We like you feel like you're in the middle of the woods. It's beautiful. I'm just reluctant to say, yeah, I'm thumbs up for taking that much
Sure.
of my driveway in the truck. So
Understood.
that's all.
Thank you for the input.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
This
Last
is,
one.
this is the urbanist nerd in me. I was like, oh, wait, I can actually think about this for a moment here. So in terms of a few different things, and I'm going to keep this as short as humanly possible. So when you're talking about the Philadelphia part of Cheltenham Avenue, that's when I would say more daylighting for the intersections would be great, especially the bump outs, especially at the intersections, because I understand the concern. And I echo that concern of, oh, people are just going to cut around and do horrible things and cause that. I have to deal with that every time. And the best way of solving that are bump outs, which are curb extensions at the end of intersections. So you're not allowed to park within 20 feet of an intersection. So if you make it concrete or at least a bollard or whatever, it means you can't physically get there. If you can't physically get there, you don't have cars going into places they're not allowed to. I also have a feeling that you've taken that into consideration with a lot of these intersections.
Yep.
There's a minimal feasibility with that on parts of Cheltenham Avenue. I am well aware of that. We're talking about widening lanes. I mean, one more lane, bro, they'll fix it, but it never does. But if we're talking about adding a bike lane in certain parts of it, especially the Philadelphia section, I'm a big proponent of that. I also understand that would mean concrete, big proponent of concrete protected bike lane. So that would definitely help, especially when you're talking about where there would be dedicated bus station, bus stop. So I could see that along with what you're talking about for the right turn only being combination. I just want to nerd out about that for 5 seconds. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. One more?
Not thinking about doing anything on Waverly Road itself, are you? When you said, you talked about aligning on Waverly Road, what does that mean?
Waverly, as it approached Cheltenham Avenue coming south.
Waverly and Murray Lane.
Yes, yes. So just jump back. So this is Mermaid, this is Waverly today. So they're two closely spaced intersections. There's a lot of interest and we got a lot of comments to provide a safe crossing for the Crescent Valley Trail, which is going to be in this area. So we were looking at different improvements. So one of the ideas that we're showing today, because it's thought the visual rendering would help the public, would be the alignment option, where as you're coming south, you pass the quarry, and then the road would bend towards Mermaid Lane and come out opposite. So instead of having two intersections that are 300, 400 feet apart, you would create one intersection.
And
That
what do you
would be
do
a
when you
right turn only, right? Would that be a right turn only?
coming up Waverly?
It would be signalized. So if PennDOT approves the signal, all turning movements would be allowed. And what's left over would be eliminated. So
You're only talking about just the corner of Waverly.
just the corner.
Yeah, not, because I live in 1923 Waverly.
Yeah, no, we try to keep it as tight to the intersection. But there are definitely challenges with this, with the utility substation on the corner and some impacts to the quarry.
Thank you.
So, all right,
Can you say something about the Crescent Valley Trail
yes,
coming to that intersection?
yes.
Where's that coming? Yeah.
It's coming up from Wissahickon. Yeah, follow the railroad.
Follow the railroad. The old railroad.
Right.
Right away, that's where they envision the trail.
So it's online as well.
Yeah.
Is it on the Township Crescent Valley Trail? And yeah. So you can look it up as well. We don't have any plans tonight on that. All right, one more.
Thank you so much for sharing this information. I found it really helpful.
Thank you.
It's a lot to digest. I'm just wondering, we spoke about incorporating LaSalle College High School in the research plan. I'm curious to know if other schools will also be involved, like Cheltenham High School or the middle school. I know that it doesn't sound like they'll be working or researching that particular area.
Right.
It seems like a great workforce development opportunity to have young people start thinking about urban planning, GIS mapping. And there's always funding for that. And I'm
Sure.
sure your plate is very full.
Yes.
There's a way that we could, get our young people talking about this, because so many of them take the bus, and walk along Cheltenham Avenue to get to these schools,
Yes.
public schools anyway.
Yeah. So we, as part of the project, we have a steering committee, and that consists of the county representatives from each of the municipalities, PennDOT and SEPTA. Can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. I think that's it. And then we work with them. We've had some meetings with them. And then that group then identified some key stakeholders. So we have met with and are going to continue to meet with some of these key stakeholders. And they're mostly, people all along the corridor, LaSalle High School, the large churches, the one, down by Limekiln and the Temple, Bethel. Yeah, Enon, yes. And then, so we've had a little bit more conversations directly with, and in the shopping center as well, the mall. And then we've also been kind of keeping in touch with Springfield Township and Cheltenham Township. We haven't been, like you said, we're not directly impacting them. So the conversations have been just kind of informative at this point for them. If they want to kind of engage, they can.
Oh, I'm saying, you're moving Waverly Road at Cheltenham down.
The school district, I'm saying. So,
I can have this follow up.
yep, yep,
I have been in Cheltenham if I want to start.
that's right.
Happy to go back.
Thank you, Chloe. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. And if you have any more questions, we'll be around the boards. You know, feel free to add some stickers if you like the different options, or if you don't care for them, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's nothing really on this. So this was just in case we wanted to take some notes, or if you wanted a big picture of the card. Thank you. Thanks for coming.